For the Sake of My Children, a novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. This is an intriguing epic story which resonates with love, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs for a review to be printed in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel narrates the life story of an Australian girl who fell in love with a Saudi man. Then she converted to Islam, married her Arab lover, and traveled with him to the Islamic world. This book is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on a true love affair between a former Christian girl and a Muslim immigrant. All names, characters, places, and events are either the product of the author's imagination or used literary. Therefore, any resemblance to actual people, living or dead, events, or locales is merely coincidental. Chapter 14. The Abduction of the White Wife. On her way back, the beautiful and sexy young Australian widow, Irshad Al-Shamari, is subjected to the same sexual harassment that she had been subjected to before on her flight from Kandahar to Islamabad. This time, however, when she reached her final destination, her unsurmountable problem went beyond sexual harassment and put her life in real danger. The truck that took her from a small town on the Pakistani border to Kandahar arrived late night on the city. It dropped her far away from where the camps are located. When the slow truck arrived downtown, it was already 12:30 midnight. At that late hour of the night, there was no bus, taxi, or other means of transport to take her to the Mujahideen camps. All the passengers disembarked from the lorry and dispersed in different directions, walking on foot to their places. The Australian widow happens to be the lone female passenger in the truck. She is afraid to venture alone and walk at night to the Mujahideen camps. She needs to walk for at least 2 hours to reach her tent. On the other hand, she dreads spending the night inside the truck with the driver and his conductor. She expected that these two lustful Afghan men would not hesitate to gang rape her when simply leaving her alone with them at night in their lorry. For them, it will be a sexual catch as easy as catching a fish in a barrel. Then they kill her and take her dead body in their truck and dump it in a ditch somewhere outside the city. To avoid such a gang rape and brutal death, the white woman gathered her courage and started walking alone towards the Mujahideen camps. As she walked, the Australian widow, Irshad, felt a little confident when she remembered that she was carrying a pistol loaded with live ammunition inside her handbag. It was given to her by her late Saudi husband. Mustafa expected some Afghan night guards to try to come to his tent and rape his beautiful foreign wife while he was away. He knew that some of these Afghan men thought every white woman is a whore who could go with any man he wanted her in his bed. The Arab husband knew in his country, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, a married young woman or an unmarried girl would be raped inside an elevator if she dared to step alone out of her apartment. There is a belief in that male-dominated country if a woman put one foot out of her door while her other foot, still inside her house, she would be raped. Therefore, the Saudi husband gave his young, beautiful Australian wife the gun and told her to use it if any armed Afghani guard attacked her inside her tent at night when he was not with her. While advancing towards her final destination, Irshad realizes that the road she is supposed to be heading to has no lights and is therefore dark. At first, she hesitated to enter that dark place alone. Standing in the middle of the night in that place also carries greater danger. Irshad knew that if the Afghan policemen found her there, they would gang rape her and then throw her into their prison. The next day, they will flog her 53 lashes for walking around alone without her husband or a male relative accompanying her. To avoid such a possibility, Irshad entered the deserted dark path and started to walk. She can hardly see anything in front of her because of the pitch-black night. As she was walking, Irshad suddenly felt someone's hand come behind her and cover her mouth, and another hand grabbed her waist. She felt as if invisible beings had come out of nowhere and assaulted her. She tried to scream, but she couldn't. She tried to free her body from the grip of the two hands, but she couldn't do that either. Then she felt herself being lifted off the ground and being carried away by some unseen creatures. All of these movements happened in less than a minute. When Irshad got over the shock, she realized that she had been kidnapped and carried by two people. One holding her upper body, covering her mouth, and the other holding her legs. They hide their faces with turbans. They run as fast as they can while carrying her. Then the kidnappers stopped and put her body on a donkey. One of them climbed onto the donkey and continued to hold her body with one hand while covering her mouth with his other hand. The other one released the donkey and also jumped onto his back. The kidnappers kept her sandwiched between them on the back of their donkey and drove away. The widow, Irshad, could not free her hands from their grip to open her handbag and use the loaded pistol given to her by her late husband, Mustafa. On that fateful night, the kidnappers took the beautiful and sexy white woman from Kandahar city to a nearby mountain in a small village. Not only do they intend to gang rape her, but, if possible, to keep her for a longer period of time to abuse her repeatedly as they have done to the other girls they have abducted before. It so happened that there was a dome of a mausoleum of a Muslim holy man who was considered one of the saints of God in Afghanistan and had passed away many years ago. The shrine is located on top of a mountain. The two kidnappers knew that the sacred dome was their sanctuary to imprison their female victims. Who would think that anyone could use this sacred place to rape and imprison a girl, a young woman, or a minor female child? The villagers consider the shrine to be the dome of the guardian saint of God on earth, who still sends blessings to them even after his departure from the land of the living and descending to the land of the dead. Every Friday evening, many women from that village visit the shrine to seek help or to seek blessings from the good man of God. If a woman gives birth to a child, she must take him to the shrine to be blessed. If she loses something valuable, she will go there and ask the buried guardian of Allah on earth to return it to her and punish those who stole it from her. If a member of a family gets sick or falls into a serious car accident and his life is suspended between heaven and earth, his female relatives must go to this righteous guardian and ask him to save his or her life. A barren woman who could not bear children would visit the shrine every Friday evening until one day the dead guardian would perform a miracle and bless her with a child. If in some way such a barren woman becomes pregnant and in time gives birth to a child, she shall call every person in the village and slaughter a cow, a sheep, or a camel. Then all the guests will gather near the shrine and eat the food of dignity or karama. Therefore, the simple villagers consider this shrine as sacred as the Black Kaaba in the holy city of Mecca or the tomb of the Prophet Muhammad in Medina. That night the two evil men brought the beautiful white woman Irshad to the shrine not to bless her or cure her of a serious illness, but to be gang-raped and imprisoned for a long time. They tied her hands and legs with ropes and closed her mouth with a long piece of turban. The Australian widow has concluded her days are over. She expected her captors to rape her and then kill her to hide their heinous crime. The two kidnappers opened the door of the small shrine and dragged the kidnapped foreign girl inside. No one had ever dared to break down or enter the door of that holy tomb. There is an old guard employed by the village chief to take care of the shrine. The simple villagers consider him a good man of Allah and a living saint as well. His duty is to collect the money of the people of the village offered by the visitors, and once a month he must open the door of the shrine and go inside to clean the holy tomb. Many villagers believe that if anyone else dares to open the door and enter the sacred area, he will either turn into a stone idol or contract bad diseases such as leprosy, cancer, or coronavirus. When their new victim, Irshad, was dragged inside, she was so frightened by the darkness of the place. One of the men lit a small candle and placed it on the ground. Irshad saw the two men standing in front of her like black demons. They still cover their faces with black turbans. She could hear their breathing like the hot steam of a freight train engine coming out of their big nostrils like fire-breathing dragons. They had not yet spoken to her or to each other. Then one of the kidnappers whispered to the other, "Let's take her clothes off first. Do not remove the turban from her mouth. If we free her mouth, she may scream and awaken the righteous disciple that acts as a sentinel. At least let's untie the ropes from her hands and feet. We can't fuck her pussy or her ass while she's tied up like this." Although the two men spoke those dirty words in whispers, The White Widow Irshad heard them clearly due to the stillness of the night. The shrine is so quiet that one can hear a pin drop. The two men first untied the binding ropes, then freed her legs and hands. Once released, the white woman tried to stand up and fight against her captors. She could not stand due to their masculine physical strength surpassing her feminine ability. She was slapped and kicked by both of them. Then they forced her to kneel on the ground. While the two men were holding her to the ground, she continued to shake her body and struggle and fight them. Irshad became like a wild cat fighting with two voracious dogs. She scratched their faces with her nails and bit their hands with her teeth. Meanwhile, her legs continued to kick their bodies hard as stones. When the kidnappers realized the difficulty of dealing with the white woman while her hands and feet were free, they decided to tie her with ropes again. One of them kept pressing her to the ground while the other searched for the ropes. The kidnapped foreign woman somehow managed to get away from that man and crept towards the door. The man jumped on her back and forced her to the ground. She managed to escape from him again and took off the turban covering her mouth. At that critical moment, her frightened eyes noticed her handbag lying on the ground within her reach. She reached out her right hand and took it. The man tried to take her handbag, but he couldn't. Irshad quickly opened her handbag and took out the revolver, which was full of live bullets. Immediately, a shot was fired at whoever was trying to catch her, but the bullet missed him. The powerful sound of the shot caused the first man to fall to the ground and the other man to stand up while trembling like a decrepit old geezer. The Australian woman pointed her gun at the standing man and shouted, "Get out of here, or I will kill you." The man fled from the shrine at once. As for the other Afghan, he remained lying on the ground, begging the white woman to forgive him for his sin and save his life for the sake of God. "If you feared God, you wouldn't have kidnapped me and tried to rape me. You and the other coward." The man shouted again, "Please, my merciful lady, do not kill me. Get out of here before I put my gun to your head and explode it." The evil Afghan man immediately got to his feet and ran outside the shrine. As soon as he got out, he pulled the door from the outside and locked it. The Australian woman, Irshad, realized her mistake too late. She ran to the door but discovered that it was locked from the outside. The foreign woman shouted angrily, "Open the door before I shoot and break it." When she said those words, she heard the kidnapper's footsteps running away. Meanwhile, the powerful sound of the revolver woke the old man guarding the holy shrine. He woke up terrified and very afraid. His extreme fear made him fall out of his bed. Since the day he was assigned to guard the shrine many years ago, the righteous disciple had never expected to hear such a powerful explosion. He became very terrified and thought that some dangerous Muslim terrorists came from Mujahideen camps in Kandahar city and blown up the dome of the holy shrine. He got to his feet and fled out of his little hut. He came out as if the flames of a blazing wildfire were chasing him. At that moment, the righteous guard saw the two captors coming down at full speed from the high mountain. His suspicion was confirmed when he saw the two men running away at an incredible speed. He concludes that they are among the Muslim terrorists who caused the explosion. He thought that a third person, a suicide terrorist, had blown his body into bits and pieces in jihad for the sake of God, and to avoid being shot and killed by the fleeing terrorists, he turned in the opposite direction and started fleeing for his life as well. He just happened to be a hunchbacked, crippled old man. Therefore, he stumbled twice and fell, but he didn't stop. He crawled on his knees until he could not move. In spite of his physical inability to move, the holy disciple began to roll his body around him and circle him until he reached the foot of the mountain. When the righteous old guard somehow managed to get under the sacred mountain, his body became very damaged and had many bruises. With great difficulty, the holy man of God rose to his feet and continued his escape. Since that day, no one has seen that good shepherd of the holy shrine again. Not only did he escape from the holy shrine mountain, but he also escaped from the village, returned to Kandahar city, and became a beggar on the streets. The righteous disciple chose to beg, starve to death, and live like a stray, manipulated, rabid dog or a sick old, abandoned donkey rather than being blown to bits and pieces by dangerous Muslim mujahideen who don't believe in erecting shrines for the dead saints. Chapter 15. Pilgrimage of Muslim Women to the Holy Mountain. The night the two evil men kidnapped the foreign woman was Thursday. The imprisoned Australian widow tried her best to open the door of the small shrine, but she was unsuccessful. She screamed for help, but no one heard her. Finally, Irshad gave up hope and waited for help from God. A white tomb placed in one corner of the little hut made her understand that she was locked inside a dead person's grave. She also knew that the tomb is located on top of a mountain. It is far from the city. However, all this information could not help her figure out how to save herself. The kidnapped Australian woman was kept locked up in that shrine for the next night and half of the day. In the morning, she expected that these two evil Afghan men would come again to attack her and try to rape her. However, she rejected that possibility when she recalled how her cowardly captors had been frightened by her when she pulled out her revolver, fired a shot at one of them, and threatened to kill them both. By late afternoon that day, the women of the village began preparing for their weekly Friday pilgrimage to their holy shrine. Since women in Islam are not allowed to participate in the public Friday prayer in the village's only mosque, which is reserved for men only, they like to go to the holy mountain and offer their petitions and supplications to God's righteous dead guardian on earth. This is because the Prophet Muhammad prohibited women from praying in mosques and asked them to pray in their homes. By 3 o'clock that Friday, each woman had begun to leave her house and join other women on their way to the shrine of Wali Allah al-Sali. They all wear white gowns and hide their faces with their Islamic headscarves. They all donned burqas and hid their faces, hands, and legs, and looked like spooky white female ghosts or vampires in horror movies or wore spooky Halloween costumes. Hundreds of them walk along the village road leading to the holy mountain where the shrine of God's righteous saint who passed away hundreds of years ago is located. This shrine has become a part of their lives. It has been there since time immemorial. Every woman has visited this shrine many times before. From the first day, when the girl was born, her mother took her to that holy shrine to be blessed. When she grows up, she should go every Friday to the blessed shrine and ask the dead guardian of Allah on earth to give her a good husband, and when she gets married, she should go in search of a blessed child. When the child is born to her, she must go and present him to the owner of the holy shrine. If the child happens to be a boy, she should visit frequently and pray that her son will grow up as a good man and help his parents. If it turns out that the baby is a girl child, then she should ask the man of God to preserve her pussy as a virgin and not allow her to bring about a sexual scandal to her family until she finds a good husband. And when she gets married, she must follow her mother's example and repeat this circle of life over and over again and forever. By 5 o'clock that Friday, the first group of women had reached the foot of the holy mountain. Nor shall they begin their ascent until all the women have been there. Arriving at the foot of the mountain, the women felt as if they had arrived at the sacred Mount Arafat in Saudi Arabia. When all the women had reached the foot of Mount God, the village chief's wife announced the start of the ascent to the blessed sanctuary. Each woman fell silent and began to silently climb God's mountain. Young unmarried girls are not allowed to lead the boarding. Older women should go first, with middle-aged women to follow. Behind them follow teenage girls and then minor girls who have not yet had their monthly menstruation due to their youthful age. Adolescent girls and unmarried young women should follow these minor girls because they are not yet defiled by menstrual blood. The menstruating girl at the time of ascent is not allowed to rise to the top, but she must remain at the foot of the holy mountain and wait for her mother or sister to bring her the blessed sands from the shrine of the saint of the guard of God on earth. This menstruating girl is considered unclean, and hence under no circumstances is she allowed to walk the holy path and ascend to the blessed shrine. If she defies this divine restriction, ventures into the holy mountain, and brings her menstruation in her pussy and underwear to the shrine of the righteous man of God, she will put herself under a great curse because she has defiled a holy place. All the villagers believe that such a girl will become barren and will not have a child in her life, even if she marries 10 men. Even worse, such a damned damsel might conceive of an illegitimate child before marriage and bring great disgrace to her family, and thus be killed out of honor by her father or brother. It is possible to climb the sacred mountain and ascend to the sanctuary by one narrow road. This road has no runways. Only one woman can walk in it, and the others follow her steps one by one like a long moving line or female soldiers in a military parade. As soon as the first woman extends her right foot and begins to ascend, she should begin loudly praising the dead saint. The second lady should do the same, and so on until the last. Each woman is supposed to raise her right hand and start praising her holy saint. As they climb up, the women's cries can be heard like those of pilgrims circling the Holy Kaaba and the Black Stone in Mecca City, running from Al-Safa Hill to Al-Marwa Hill, and standing soberly at the Holy Mountain in the city of Arafat, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The village chief's wife leads a lengthy line of women. Because of her age, the queue moved slowly like a group of turtles climbing the blessed mountain. To proceed with the events of that Friday evening, let us skip the unnecessary delays caused by the village chief's wife on account of her advanced age and incurable chronic illness and go straight to the sanctuary. By the time all of the women had somehow managed to reach the sacred mountain, the shrieking of their voices could seriously damage the ear of someone unaccustomed to such kind of loud noises. The kidnapped foreign widow and imprisoned Australian woman Irshad resurrected out of a deep calmness that gripped her soul all night and all day. She felt as if she had been buried in a grave, and some women came to visit her tomb and honor her as a Muslim saint or good guardian of God on earth. And because she was born a woman, expecting her to be treated like a Muslim saint in an Islamic society is next to impossible. Such a wish will never come true. Only men in this part of the world can be considered saints or righteous guardians of God on earth who have no fear them nor they grieve, and when they die people visit their graves and seek blessings from their shrines. As far as my humble knowledge is concerned, I have never heard, and I believe I will never hear in the future, of a Muslim woman who became a righteous guardian of Allah on earth or saint after her death and had people visit her shrine after she passed away in a Muslim community, no matter how revered and pious she was in her earthly life. The truth of the matter is that in Islamic culture, a woman considers her birth a curse on her parents, her life a danger to the honor of her family, and her maintenance after her marriage is a burden on her husband. But her early death in her youth is a huge relief to everyone in her family. At first, the white woman, Irshad, thought her rescuers had come, but the women's screams took away hope from her heart. She concluded that no matter how much she screamed and asked for help, her gentle female voice could not be heard due to the loud, deafening women's voices. Her chance of being heard and rescued became slim when all the pilgrims arrived at the holy shrine and began offering their petitions and supplications to the righteous guardian of God. Ashad repeatedly called for help, banging her hands and kicking her feet on the solid iron door of the tomb. She wants to tell them that the saint they worship can hear their prayers and accept their petitions if they free her from the tomb of his holy shrine. The imprisoned Irshad feared that the women would end their visit and leave without knowing that she was imprisoned inside with their saint, the righteous guardian of God, who died before the end of ages. An idea came to her mind, but she resisted it and continued her fruitless efforts to draw the attention of worshippers, pilgrims, penitents, pious worshippers, memorizers of the unseen, and visits to the mountain of God's righteous guardian, Maki al-Shabi. May God honor his grave. By then, these female pilgrims had reached the pinnacle of their worship. Some women cry, some laugh, some ululate, and most of them make strange, funny, and frightening sounds that cannot be determined whether they are the voices of animals, demons, angels, or virginal nymphs who descended from paradise, which is in the zodiac sky. Some women went as far as to fall in front of the holy shrine and roll over and over in the dirt like people suffering from epileptic seizures. During this great spiritual holy rapture, the imprisoned Australian widow finally made up her mind and fired 3 live shots from her revolver. It is not only difficult, but impossible to describe the chaos that prevailed and changed that sacred spiritual atmosphere. It would have been more than enough if the armed white foreign lady had fired her gun just once. If a single shot from such a powerful revolver caused two men to run at the speed of light and a lame, hunchbacked old man to roll all the way from the top of the shrine to the foot of the mountain, what could we expect to happen to these village women when they heard the sound of gunshots thundering 3 times? Some women fainted immediately and stopped breathing. Many other women have had major heart attacks. However, large numbers of married women, elderly women and others in the midst fled in search of shelter and hideout but could not find any, and thus used their fellow worshippers or their young and teenage daughters as human shields. A few women turned into gnomes, and their brains stopped working. They became like dead bodies. Some teenagers and non-menstruating girls somehow managed to escape for their lives, leaving behind their mothers, aunts, grandmothers, friends, relatives, and neighbors to face their death at the hands of Muslim terrorists armed to the teeth. The terror and panic caused by the gunshots from the prisoner Irshad is indescribable. After that, a complete silence followed, and one could hear a needle fall. The kidnapped white woman who was imprisoned inside the blessed shrine shook her head several times to make sure she was not dreaming or hallucinating. She put her ear to the iron door to make sure that those righteous, devout, penitent women visiting the holy shrine of the righteous guardian of Allah on earth were still there. When she could hear no sound, she concluded that her powerful shots had killed all the women in front of the shrine door. To confirm or refute this unpleasant end to that sacred cult worship of the pious women of God, the brave white woman decided to try her luck again and ask for help. Is there any female visitor to the tomb of this shrine of the man of God who is still dead? The kidnapped Australian widow cried out these words from within the darkened tomb. The great terror caused by the gunshots turned into extreme panic when some of the hiding women heard a soft female voice, sweet as the song of a nightingale, calling from inside the tomb of the long-dead guardian of God, Maki Shabik. Did God make such a great miracle by reviving his good guardian? If yes, why did he bring him back to life as a woman? How can a woman be a holy man of God? According to Sharia, a woman may not be an imama and lead men in prayer or be a caliph and rule a country. So why did God Almighty do such an abomination by turning his dead, pure and holy saint into an unclean creature like a girl? This is the thought that goes on in the minds of some frightened, hidden women who are still alive and whose brains are still working. Please help me. Irshad screamed again in her sweet, musical, and angelic voice. Indeed, at that terrible time, these terrified women needed more help than her. They were now motionless and their bodies paralyzed, frozen, and stiff. My name is Irshad Al-Shamari. I am a widow from the Mujahideen camps in Kandahar city. Could you please help me? An old hag woman who was less afraid than the other frightened ladies heard some words of Irshad's last sentence, but interpreted them in some miraculous way. She thought that the dead righteous man of God had answered her prayer and sent an angel to confirm it. But she is hesitant to move her sedated body. When no woman answered her words, the kidnapped and imprisoned foreign widow decided to slam the door with her hands and kick it again with her shoes. She did it with all her might. Another old hag heard the kicking and beating, but she fears that the holy man will rise from his grave and come out to punish her for her disobedience to her late husband, Sheikh Isa Mosa, who died recently at the age of 88. However, with fear and trembling, she said, "I heard you, holy man of God. If you hear me, can you open the door, please? 2 evil men kidnapped me from the city last night and then forcibly brought me here." "Where?" "Here. Here in this grave." "In what grave were you buried?" "I do not know who is buried in this grave." "You were killed by 2 men and buried here?" "I am not killed nor buried yet. I'm still alive like you, locked inside this tomb by 2 evil men who kidnapped me last night and tried to rape me." "Where is this grave?" "I told you I'm trapped inside this damn place. Would you please open the door for me and stop asking unnecessary questions?" No human being can enter this holy tomb and live except for the old disciple, the sentinel of this blessed shrine of God's righteous guardian, Maki al-Shabik. Please go and tell that holy sentinel of God's shrine to come and open the door and lead me out of this damned grave. What is your name? I told you my name is Irshad al-Shammari. I am a widowed woman from the Mujahideen camps in Kandahar city. So far, this conversation between the old hag woman and the white foreign woman has been interpreted by other women who happen to be still in the psychic state of hearing and understanding as a direct, heavenly earthly telephone communication between the worlds of the living and the dead. But when the dead woman mentioned that her name was an earthly feminine name, not a heavenly one, the old hunchbacked and half-deaf wife of the village chief, who happened to be listening, trembling and shaking, decided to share in this heavenly language. Who imprisoned your soul in this holy tomb, my late daughter Irshad? Asked the village chief's wife, in a hoarse voice like an old ogre. Two evil men abducted me last night and brought me to this grave and tried to undress me and then rape me together. I cannot touch the door of the holy shrine with my hands because I am an Awara woman lacking in brain and deficient in religion and reason. Nothing like this will happen to you if you do that. May God bless you and your family for saving me from this dark shrine. The Australian widow might have been left to starve and thirst in that ancient tomb and buried alive there if it had not been for another woman less religious and not so superstitious as the other villagers. Therefore, she stood on her feet and came out of her hiding place and walked slowly and fearfully towards the door and opened it quickly and ran away because she thought she had opened a heavenly door and unleashed a spiritual being. As soon as the door opened, the kidnapped, beautiful white foreign woman who had been imprisoned in the dark tomb walked out, clutching a gun in her hand. Her white color and bewitching beauty made these Afghan village women believe that she is a heavenly angel indeed or a virgin nymph who descended from paradise. But the hair-old woman who dared to break the seal of the sacred iron gate collapsed to the ground and fainted when she saw the miserable state of the blonde foreign woman with a gun in her hand ready to fire. Meanwhile, before the imprisoned kidnapped white woman Irshad came out of that dark tomb, the teenage girls escaping from God's sacred mountain where the blessed shrine is located began arriving in the village and bringing disturbing news. These runaway girls arrived at various times and entered the village from all four directions. Every girl thinks she is the only escapee and survivor. The distance between the village and the holy mountain is 30 minutes by donkey and 1 hour on foot. However, the first young female fugitive landed in the village after 15 minutes of non-stop flying, a record. The second runaway teenage damsel arrived after 20 minutes of driving at breakneck speed on wheels on her bare feet. The third underage girl arrived after 25 minutes of the women's 100-meter race at the World Olympics in Afghanistan. This, of course, is one of the 7th impossibilities for this competition to be held in a Muslim country. These 3 runaway girls reported the fatal accident differently according to their perceptions. The first girl reported that the holy shrine of the righteous saint was bombed by Muslim terrorists and killed all the women, and she alone managed to escape. The second girl believes that the good man of God has risen from his grave and shot the unclean village women and killed them all, and she is the only survivor. The third girl claimed that the blessed mountain of God was struck by a lightning bolt from heaven, and that all the guilty women who went there for pilgrimage were killed except for her alone. In this way, the surviving young female escapees continued to come one by one, giving various reports and causing more fear and panic. In the meantime, the brave old lady took out the remains of the Australian widow from her grave after being buried in it for many hours. Irshad then attempts to revive the unconscious elderly woman who sets her free. She found a jar of water placed there for the visiting female pilgrims. She took it and poured half of its water over the half-dead old woman before she could bring her back to life. The terrified village woman opened her eyes in extreme terror and mistook the white, blonde woman for one of the 2 angels of death, Munkar and Nakir, who are supposed, according to Islamic jurisprudence, to interrogate the dead in the grave, torture him for his misdeeds, and bless him for his honorable deeds. Then they will deliver him to the bald-head serpent to bite and sting him day and night until he rises from his grave naked and barefoot on the last day of resurrection. Therefore, the frightened, old hag woman called out to the white, blonde angel of death, please, angel of death, do not torment me. I will not torture or harm you, my gracious lady. I am so grateful to you for freeing me from this damned grave. Who are you, pure angel of Allah? Are you not one of the angels of death, Munkar and Nakir? I'm not an angel. I am just a foreign woman from Australia. Are you a person like me? Yes, I am human like you. My name is Irshad Al-Shammari. How did you enter the holy shrine tomb? Yesterday, in the middle of the night, 2 wicked men snatched me from the city and brought me here by force on the back of a lame donkey with my hands and feet bound and my mouth covered with a long turban and imprisoned me inside this dark tomb. The old Afghan woman was shocked when she realized that the white foreign girl Irshad had entered the holy sepulchre without any curse. Her family has made her believe since childhood that a woman who ventures into the holy sepulchre will contract leprosy or, worse, turn into an ugly monkey, a creepy zombie, or an unclean pig. But after she saw with her own eyes an unclean young Western woman who dared to enter into the holy sepulchre and come out alive, her faith in the man of God, the righteous, the dead, the old, the broken, the mighty, was severely shaken. She concluded that the entire holy mountain had been defiled by the presence of the cursed foreign woman inside the tomb. Even worse, the old woman thought that 2 evil men had had unlawful sex with her all night inside the holy sepulchre, fucking her pussy with 2 dicks simultaneously. Perhaps she would not have felt so much astonishment and righteous anger if she had heard that a girl and a boy had been caught naked in the very act of committing adultery in the prayer sanctuary of the village's only mosque. As a result, the angry old hag woman fell on the holy ground, which had been desecrated because 2 dissolute men had defiled a pussy of an infidel woman with their cocks, and so she began to weep like a mother who had lost her child. Then she filled her head with holy sand and started slapping her cheeks like a mad woman. As for the other women, who had hidden all this time and heard all the conversation between the white woman and their fellow angry pilgrim, they came out of their hiding places and joined the old village woman in her weeping, wailing, and lamentation. Likewise, they all imitated the angry old woman and began crying, bewailing, squealing, beating their bodies, slapping their faces, and plucking their hair with their hands. They covered their heads with dirt and ashes too. They felt that their holy, righteous, and buried guardian of God on earth, whom they worshipped since childhood, and some of whom visited his sacred mountain from an early age, had died and become an evil man after his holy shrine was defied and desecrated by an impure white woman. She defiled his pure and blessed shrine by her unlawful fornication with 2 evil men. Meanwhile, the so-called impure adulterous white woman, Irshad, looks at these weeping Afghani women and wonders what she should do. She does not know how to return to the city of Kandahar alone, where her 7 children are in the Mujahideen camps. Besides, the sun has set and it's already dark. She is afraid of risking her life again by going down the mountaintop alone. She might be attacked by wild beasts, or some evil Afghan men would kidnap her and try to gang rape her again. Her only hope is to wait for these women to overcome their deep sadness and overwhelming emotions and take her back with them. While she was waiting impatiently and thinking about what to do, Irshad was surprised by a strange reaction that she did not expect to happen to her at all. Suddenly a fat woman ran up to her and assaulted her. Not expecting or preparing for such a sudden, inexplicable attack, the blonde foreign woman fell upside down with her nakedness exposed and her small black underwear exposed when the fat woman slapped her and pushed her back with all her might. "Let's kill this evil, infidel, white girl." The woman who initiated the attack shouted loudly and furiously. The other women immediately responded and ran towards the white woman. Having no other choice, the armed Australian foreign woman had to fire a shot in the air from her still-wielding rifle. The sound of the powerful shot caused some of the women to fall and others to stop. Irshad immediately got to her feet and faced them. "What did I do wrong?" The white foreign woman angrily shouted. "You damned white demon and impure, infidel foreign whore," shouted the woman who started the attack. "You had sex and fornication with 2 corrupt men inside the precincts of the holy sepulchre of God's good guardian Maki al-Shabab Jabbar al-Maksura, who used to follow us and help us. I didn't do anything like that. I told you that I was kidnapped by 2 men from the city and brought against my will to this place and locked inside. And of course, the 2 men gang-raped you inside our sacred shrine. Yes, they tried to rape me, but God saved me from them. I scared them with my gun and made them run off like cowards. If you're telling the truth, why didn't you kill at least one of them and show us his dead body now? I wanted to kill them both, but they locked me inside and ran off like terrified dogs. The hunchbacked ailing old wife of the village head said, "There is no point in arguing with this foreign, white, Christian, infidel woman. We must take her to the village and bring the matter to my blessed husband." Some angry village women objected to this opinion and said that the impure Christian infidel, white witch, and filthy bitch would bring many curses to their blessed village if they took her there. Her unholy existence will spread prostitution, fornication, and immorality like the spread of coronavirus among all the teenage girls and young women of the village who are not yet married and still virgins. However, the lame, haggard wife of the village headman exercised her veto power and convinced several objecting village women of her wise decision. In the end, the extremely angry women accepted the village chief's wife's good advice. Then they took with them the beautiful blonde, young white woman who had been freed from the den of the 2 adulterers and the sepulchre of the dead bones of the unknown Muslim soldier of Allah who got killed as a terrorist martyr in the cause of jihad war against the Russian army many years ago.